Section Samboy Sen, the predicament of Hinduism. The innate class solidification of the caste system and the division of Brahman and Sudra. 三印度教卡点，种姓制度的先天阶层固化与婆罗门首陀罗的割裂性。Hinduism, as the native religion of India and the core of Indian civilization, IT's inherent predicament lies in the innate class exclusivity brought about by the caste system. The caste system is not a simple social hierarchy, but a God-created innate identity shackle deeply bound with religious beliefs and cultural traditions. As the Indian sociologist M.N. Srinivas pointed out in Caste in Modern India, the caste system is the core skeleton of Indian society, which runs through all aspects of Indian social life and has become an insurmountable inherent predicament of Hinduism. This innate class solidification is completely opposite to the core connotation of equality of all people required by universal harmony. ND also led to the extinction of Buddhism in India, a typical example of the failure of Indian civilization to break through exclusive logic. The caste system takes the Brahma creation theory as its religious basis, dividing people into four major castes: Brahmin priests, Kshatriya nobles, Vaishya commoners, and Sudra servants, plus the untouchables who are outside the four castes. A person's caste is innately determined at birth and can never be changed, or crossed untouchables are forbidden to marry, eat, and live with high castes, and even touch the shadow of high castes. This God-created HIERARCHICAL division has endowed the caste system with unshakable religious legitimacy, making it a divine rule that cannot be questioned. At the practical level, the caste system has led to three major consequences. First, the monopoly of resource distribution. Brahmins and Kshatriyas monopolize core resources such as education, land, and power. Vaishyas can only engage in commerce and agriculture, Sudras can only engage in physical labor, and untouchables are forbidden to engage in any decent occupation, making the bottom people lose the possibility of changing their destiny. Second, the deep domestication of cognition. The caste system implants the caste fatalism into people's cognition through religious doctrines, social customs, and family education, and the bottom people generally accept the concept that suffering in this life is the karmic retribution of the previous life, and only in the next life can they upgrade their caste, lacking the awareness and motivation to resist. Third, the severe division of society. The caste system divides Indian society into countless isolated and closed small groups, with no communication and integration between different castes, making Indian society lose the possibility of forming a unified civilizational identity. The extinction of Buddhism in India is the inevitable result of the internal strangulation of the caste system and the external impact of Islam, which profoundly reflects the terminal illness of Hinduism's innate solidification. Buddhism's core tenet of equality of all sentient beings precisely hit the core pain point of the caste system, so it attracted a large number of bottom people and nobles who were dissatisfied with the caste system in its early birth. However, Buddhism never broke through the shackles of the caste system. On the one hand, Buddhism lacked a religious foundation to compete with Hinduism. Hinduism is deeply bound with people's daily life, religious rituals, and spiritual sustenance, while Buddhism's requirement of monastic practice is divorced from the survival needs of the bottom people, making it difficult to form a broad social foundation. On the other hand, Buddhism's elitist tendency made it lose the bottom support. IT's core doctrines such as the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path tend to philosophical speculation, which are mainly spread among monks and nobles and fail to sink into the cognition of the bottom people. Finally, it gradually declined in the encirclement of the caste system. In the 11th century AD, Muslim invaders entered the Indian subcontinent and launched a devastating attack on Buddhism, burning Buddhist monasteries, slaughtering monks, and plundering Buddhist scriptures, making Buddhism lose its inheritance, subject, and material foundation. Trapped between Hinduism and Islam, Buddhism had neither the social foundation of Hinduism nor the military support of Islam, and finally became extinct in its native India. As Toynbee pointed out, the extinction OFBUDDHISM in India is a tragedy of a civilization that pursues equality but is unable to break through the exclusive system, and it is also a profound reflection of the inherent predicament of Hinduism's caste system. Chapter 4. The Eastern Solution. Chinese culture's deconstruction of the inherent predicaments of the three major civilizations. 第4章，东方解放，中国文化对三大文明原生卡点的解构。The inherent predicaments of the world's three major civilizations all stem from their inability to transcend the exclusive logic of dual opposition and innate solidification, while Chinese culture, relying on its spiritual isomorphism with Mahayana Buddhism and its three-level non-exclusive compatible framework, has perfectly deconstructed these predicaments one by one. As Jacques Genet pointed out, Chinese culture's greatest strength is its ability to dissolve exclusive barriers through integration and transcend dual opposition through holism. THIS chapter interprets how Chinese culture deconstructs the inherent predicaments of Protestant Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism from the cognitive, institutional, and practical levels respectively. AND verifies the unique value of Chinese culture in the process of human universal harmony with concrete logical paths and practical experiences, forming a complete response to Toynbee's prediction. Section 4.1 Deconstructing the Predicament of Protestantism. From God, Human Division to the Unity of Heaven and Man. 4.1 解构新教卡点，从神我二分到天人合一 Chinese culture. Deconstructs the predicament of Protestant Christianity's God-human division and the exclusivity of only truth from the cognitive level, relying on its core cognition of the unity of heaven and man and the symbiosis of all things, which is formed by the integration of Confucianism, Taoism, and Mahayana Buddhism. As Alan Watts pointed out, the unity of heaven and man in Chinese culture is a holistic cognitive way that transcends dual opposition, which is completely different from the Protestant God-human division. It dissolves the absolute boundary between the human and the divine, the self and the other, and realizes the inclusive cognition of the symbiosis of all things. THE, Unity of Heaven and Man in Chinese culture, affirms that humans and heaven and earth are an organic whole with the same origin and interdependence, without the division of creator and created. Confucianism emphasizes that man is an integral part of heaven and earth, Mencius Lilu I, and humans can realize the unity with heaven and earth through self-cultivation and virtue, rather than looking up to the transcendental God for redemption. Taoism advocates that humans follow the way of earth follows the way of heaven follows the way of Tao, and Tao follows nature. Tao Te Ching, Chapter 25, regarding the Tao as the common origin of humans and all things, and humans only need to follow the natural way to realize the symbiosis with the world. Mahayana Buddhism Sunyata and Anatta further sublimate this cognition, affirming that all things including humans are the products of dependent origination, and there is no absolute independent entity. This cognitive way completely breaks the Protestant exclusive logic of only truth, because it does not set any absolute transcendental existence, nor regard any single cognition as the only truth. At the practical level, Chinese culture's non-exclusive religious policy further reflects this cognitive way. It adheres to the freedom of religious belief, protects the legitimate religious activities of all religions, and advocates the Chinese localization of religions, letting all religions integrate into Chinese secular society without forming a state within a state. As Benjamin Schwartz pointed out, China's religious policy is a pragmatic inclusiveness based on secular order, which does not oppose any religion, but only requires that religion must not damage social stability and people's well-being. This inclusive practice makes Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, and other religions coexist peacefully in China. Breaking the Protestant exclusive logic of unbelief is heresy, and verifying the possibility of multi-religious symbiosis from the practical level. Section 4 are deconstructing the predicament of Islam, from religious binding to secular foundation and faith supplement. 4.2 解构伊斯兰教卡点，从政教绑定到世俗为基，信仰为补。Chinese culture deconstructs the predicament of Islam's hard core of monotheism, the binding of religion, and society from the institutional level, relying on its framework of secular as the foundation and faith as the supplement formed over thousands of years. This framework separates the secular order from religious belief, takes the secular ethics of benefiting the people's livelihood as the core of social operation, and regards religious belief as a personal spiritual choice, thus dissolving the exclusivity caused by the deep binding of religion and society.